Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. My name is Charles, and with me today, as always, is my lifelong friend and co-host, Dylan.
I'm ready to talk some fantasy with my friend Charles.
I am ready to talk some fantasy with my friend as well, Dylan, but not just any fantasy today.
Ooh.
Because today we are going to go through some, I guess you could call it, therapy. We are going to be honest with ourselves. This is going to be a raw episode. This is going to be, vulnerabilities are going to be shared.
It's going to get there, huh?
It's going to get a little emotional, dare I say. And the first step, Dylan, as I'm sure you know, as a student of psychology, is to admit that you have a problem. And it's been a long time in the works, but I think we're ready to finally admit that we have a problem.
Yes, and that problem, to just name it in the room right now, Charles.
Say it.
It's an audible problem. We have an audible problem. And
We
I'm just choking up here, so Charles, so can you... It's not just that my voice is dead from the Green Day concert I just got back from last night. It is me choking up for sure. That is affecting my voice. So Charles, can you get into what our audible problem is?
Well, Dylan, how did it get this bad? I don't know, man. I mean, it's one of those things where for those, Audible's a monthly subscription, right? You pay like $14.99 a month, and it gives you a credit that you can use to spend on an audiobook at any point. And those credits, if you don't spend it in the month, it builds every month. They're still going to bill you. They're still going to give you a credit until you get to the point where you have too many, and then they will force you to... They expire when you have more than 12, which we haven't gone. That's rock bottom, and we haven't gotten there yet. Thankfully, we
to keep
found
paying
yes.
after you already are no longer getting credit is definitely rock bottom.
That's rock bottom, but thankfully, we have a strong support group with each other here, and we were able to stop ourselves before it got too bad. But we are still... abusers of this program here. This all started when I was like, I have 7 unused Audible credits, 7 months of buildup of just paying and not using these credits to the point where it's like, it's going to take me forever. I can never catch up. It's kind of like, a credit card loan where it's like you can't even begin to start paying it off because the interest keeps adding every month. It's like, man, as soon as I listen to a book, another credit pops up in its place. We're trapped in this vicious Audible cycle.
Oh, yeah. It's so easy to get trapped. And it's weird, Charles, because I used to be in a situation where I even sometimes would purchase like the extra 3 Audible credits for their little deal that they would give for that. I was like desperate for more credits. And then I don't know, I guess just the landscape of audiobooks has changed a bit with like Spotify Premium offering some free listening hours.
Yep.
Also, there's options for trying to get audiobooks through less expensive means, right? Like you can go through the library and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, I guess it's just been a perfect storm with like what we've been reading. We've been reading a lot of physical books lately. And then also we've been reading the Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, and mostly I've been physical reading on the Kindle, but then aren't those books like free on Audible right now, or at least the Mad Ship is. So it's like we supplement that a little bit with some of our audio listening time, and we're getting those for free. So then these credits just keep building and building and building. And then, Charles, you're looking at a mountain of credits and you're so overwhelmed you can't even spend one.
I know. That's where we're at. I knew I had a problem. There was Christian Cameron's sci-fi series. He had this short story collection, but to buy it on Audible was like $12. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend a $15 credit to get a $12 book.
Wait,
so I bought.
You
I
spent
bought,
the $12?
I spent the $12 because I'm not going to lose $3 on the credit.
Yeah, you got a problem. Like,
so now
extra...
that's between the library and what comes with the subscription and Spotify and how much reading we do. I mean, we're reading like 2 to 3 books a month just for this show. So I don't know how it got so out of control. But you know what I did, Dylan? They don't let you. You know the crazy thing? If you cancel your Audible subscription, you will lose all of your credits by the end of that, whenever your billing period ends. So you lose any credits you have at the end of your billing cycle if you cancel. So let's say like my billing cycle ends on the 10th. If I cancel on the 8th, I have 2 days to spend 7 credits. Otherwise, they're all gone. Like $100+ worth of credits like wiped away. So that is the challenge that we're at, but they'll let you pause. So my membership is paused. I've got 3 months to spend. And Dylan, this was originally going to be an intervention for me, but literally as we jump into the recording, we came to the realization, I thought I was bad with 7 unused credits, and that is bad, but you are not that far behind. We're making such a big deal about me having 7.
I have 6.
You have 6.
Why is this happening?
I don't know. We've got 13 credits to spend. So let's, not waste any more time here. We need to figure out what the heck we're going to spend these on. So this is an audiobook recommendation series, but not just any audiobook
with a twist.
Recommendation series. There's a twist, Dylan. Who doesn't love a good twist? Because we've listened to all the top stuff, right? Your Joe Abercrombies, your Patrick Rothfuses, your Brandon Sandersons, your Michael Kramers, your Kate Reddings. We've heard it all. So those easy pickings that you could recommend and download, spend all those credits, those are gone for us. So we need to dive into the next tier and really get into the weeds of how in the heck are we going to spend 7 audiobooks. We've done like almost 300 episodes of FTF. So it's like we need to find something new for us that makes sense. And we need to spend these credits quick so that we dig ourselves out of this hole we have found ourselves in.
That's exactly what we have to do. And we need help. Right? In these kind of situations, you reach out to your support networks. And since Charles and I, we can support each other some, but we have the same problem. And sometimes
you have to admit you're powerless and you need help.
Okay, for these, just to not to go off on that model because it works for a lot of people. And what works for you is what's good to do. But some, those models... The effectiveness is basically to the extent that it creates a social network for you, rather than necessarily the mechanisms through which you're going through those processes. But anyway, like the 5 steps.
Twitter's a good social network.
Twitter is, yes, exactly.
Instagram, maybe.
Right, and those social networks are so helpful, social support systems. So we reached out to Twitter and we asked for help. We weren't quite ready at that point to admit that we had this Audible problem. So I just asked for top audiobook, like fantasy recommendations from the crowd.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I just don't need that in writing, what's been going on with us.
There's just some things you need to share on social media.
Right. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for us. Like, we're voracious audiobook listeners and we have all these credits. Like, we don't want to admit what's going on. But so that means we had lots of people chime in, which we appreciate everyone who responded. And we did get a lot of recommendations. Like, I feel like First Law was recommended by like over half of the people that chimed in. Which is great, and we love First Law, and we love Stephen Pacey, who's the audiobook narrator.
One of the best.
There's only so much we can do with that recommendation. If we're just doing a straightforward
we have
top fantasy
them all,
book
and we've read those books multiple times. So
through
if
numerous, we've read them physically, we've read them audibly.
That would have been
there's
9
nothing left for us.
Easy. Yeah. Plus, unless you count his young adults series, Half a King, that's another 3.
Yeah.
So that's 12. But if The Devils came out anytime soon, but I can't wait that long. By the time The Devils comes out,
Can you
I'll still be in this
pre-order?
hole.
and
That's
use
a good
can you use a
question.
credit? That would be a good start. So for all those awesome folks who recommended Abercrombie books, maybe we can appease you by seeing if we can pre-order
That would be
the
cool.
Devils, because
There's no
we
way
also
they'd
have
let
to
you
see
do that.
just like Charles. One thing I know is I would never ever question the model of potential, like the customer service and the model of potential sponsor, Audible. Like, in case
good point.
you understand what I'm saying
I
here,
understand.
Charles.
Yes,
Right.
it's a wonderful
So-
service. So I think, in their
No
wisdom,
problems with it.
that they
Right,
wouldn't.
so much wisdom.
They wouldn't. They don't. I don't see it. Shall I say in his library?
I don't see it
That
either.
would be nice, but alas, it is not here, and I don't remember exactly. I want to say it's like I'm going to search it because I want to say it's like March of 25 that is coming out, which we will be all over. But the problem is, can't spend that credit today. And let's be real, I'm probably just going to buy the book too. That's the other thing. It's like there's some books that I own physical copies of that I haven't read yet that I'm hesitant to get the audiobook of. So it's just like,
Okay.
May 6, 2025 is when it's supposedly going to come out. So looking forward to that. But we need to dig a little deeper into the Rex. But Joe Abercrombie, anything by Stephen Pacey,
Charles.
fantastic audiobook narrator.
Would you go so far as to say that we need to dig deep enough to dig down into a dungeon, Charles? Would that be?
I would
because
I think we're at that level. We're desperate here.
Okay, we well, something interesting has been popping up here, Charles. There's a book that was published in 2020 called Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt
I've
Dinneman.
heard of this series. I see it popping up like on Our Fantasy and stuff all the time.
I see it popping up all of a sudden everywhere. I feel like I did not see this. This is about as old as the Friends Talking Fantasy podcast is. This book only came out a few months after we started recording these things. But for some reason, I feel like we never got recommended this book until all of a sudden we threw out this like, hey, what are your audiobook recommendations thing? And now people are coming out of the woodwork to recommend this book, beginning with Beth Tabler of Before We Go blog fame.
Respect.
So,
Love
yeah,
Beth Tabler.
Beth just chimed in, former guest of the show, friend of the show. Beth chimed in, just said Dungeon Crawler Carl. Enough said. That's all she said. But
so I'm looking
not
at
alone.
It's got
Not
the
alone,
Audible
Charles.
exclusive tag on there, and it's
Yeah.
got this thing called Sound Booth of Lit RPG / Game Lit Adventure. What does that mean? I've never heard of that. But this is what
So
kills me,
is it
Dylan.
like
They
Lit
discounted the
RPG?
price. Right now it is $9.80. So I'm paying $15 to buy a $9.80
I don't know
audiobook.
why you get caught up on that stuff. Like, you have extra credits. Just
I know.
spend your credits.
But
Why
some
are you
audiobooks are
adding
like
extra
40,
money?
60 bucks.
I know, I understand, but these are desperate times, Charles. Okay, so so I just want to say, yes, Beth Tabler at Beth Tabler on Twitter posted that, but she was not alone. We got a recommendation from Julia Caro at JULS Jules Library, that alongside numerous other recs, they put Dungeon Crawler Carl, and also we've got Wilfred Burkhoff, WF Burkhoff, putting Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I believe we had one more there too, if I'm but I'm having trouble locating that.
Should we read some of the premise here? Highly rated by listeners.
Caitlin Lloyd and Caitlin L on Twitter.
So
Dungeon Crawler Carl. That's like 4, right? 4.
That's a decent, yeah. That's not nothing. And I'll tell you, I've seen this like recommended on Audible as a popular recommendation. I've seen it on Our Fantasy a couple times. I think the reason I've kind of like glazed over it is because it says it's like funny. It looks kind of like, more like entertainment driven, which is fine. But it's like, I'm looking for something substantial, something like that has a long history of being popular. But this could be a fun foray into these like highly produced Audible adventures. I don't know what it means that it's a lit RPG / game lit adventure.
Yeah, I don't know game lit, but to me, lit RPG is like basically the characters like leveling up almost like a video game style. Like it's written in a style of almost video game-esque. Okay. It's outside of what we typically read. But here, I'm just going to say
it's a hilarious premise and humor drama, which I'm also... And it mentions cats in the synopsis in the first 2 sentences. So I'm always like...
Charles, 4.9 as its average rating, which coincides with Friends Talking Fantasy, is 4.9 on Spotify.
And, wow, that's very
But
high.
they do have a few, they do have a few more ratings than we have because there's 19.8 thousand ratings for 4.9. Can we stop
That's a few more
being
than
nitpicky? Can we stop being nitpicky here, Charles? We had 4 people, respected people,
this is like
this
an
book.
Intervention, right? I'm being faced by all of our community. I'm being faced by you.
Right.
This is a sign of my growth. This is a sign of my breakthrough moment. It's $9.80, which is less than the $14.99 I paid for the credit.
That's 60% off, Charles.
It's a humor-based
$24.95.
lit RPG, cats in the synopsis. But you know what? I'm going to buy it for 1 credit right now. I have nothing against them. It's just usually like not a red flag, but like a yellow flag for when I'm shopping around for fantasy.
Okay,
I don't know.
That's another issue. We might need another episode.
We need a whole separate intervention for that. I love
this,
cats, but sometimes it makes me a little nervous. I'm going to spend the credit. Will you join me in this?
Charles, I think we need to do it together. I would never leave you to go through this alone. And I'm ready. I'm ready to click it.
All right,
buy
3,
for 1 credit.
2, 1, buy for 1 credit. Are you add to your library using 1 credit?
Confirmed. We did it.
Success. Okay.
How's it feel?
It feels good. It just feels like a burden has been lifted off of my shoulders. Watching that 7 go down to a 6. So first book, Dungeon Crawler Carl, book 1. That's the first one on our list. That is huge.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Charles,
I'm actually excited to get into it now. I've done a 180 on it.
Yeah, as have I. I mean, I didn't do a 180. I never had the level of resistance I think you had. But I'll say, Charles,
resistance. I was just like scrolled right past it, and I didn't even think about it.
Okay, but now all those recommendations from the community helped you think harder about it. And how cool, I hope those folks listen to the episode, because it would be cool for me if I made a recommendation that I'd be able to actually hear not in real time, but in recorded time, them actually take that recommendation and make that purchase. That's got to be rewarding.
I spent cold hard cash. I overpaid because of these wonderful recommendations.
That's the point. That's the point, Charles, is you did not spend cold hard cash. You did not click $9.99 plus tax. You clicked confirm on spending 1 credit. So
I did. And that's part of the breakthrough. I'm going through it still, but I'm making the right behavioral choices. So that's great, Dylan. Thank you for sourcing that from the crowd. And thank you for everyone that recommended it. Shout out Beth Tabler. So that's 1 down. I don't think we got to go through all of the credits today, but we should try and burn as many as we can here.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so when I was looking through the recommendations here, I just tried to note what are themes, like what's coming up multiple times.
Okay.
Another book and series that came up multiple times is Sabriel, and that's the Old Kingdom series.
Sabriel?
Yes.
By Garth Nix?
By Garth Nix. I have been wanting to read this book for a while, actually.
Okay.
So,
God, this one's $12. I can't. I got a problem. I've got a problem. Okay, I'm admitting
with the tax. That's got to bring it up almost to that 15. And I just don't I guess we come from different places here, Charles. Like the getting caught up on you could get it for $12 when you have 7 credits sitting, now 6. Yeah, I don't know if I understand that as much, but I empathize.
It's just a matter of like
you're ultimately
with. if you are spending your credits reliably, then and you didn't have to worry about having too many, then financially it doesn't make sense to buy a credit for $15 to then use to buy a $10 book. But I'm deep in the hole at this point. You would pay to get out of the debt, So this is part of my healing, and I see the book here. It's part of a series, The Old Kingdom you mentioned, right? This is book 1. Imaginative world building, captivating dark fantasy, excellent narration, and a compelling coming-of-age story. Interesting. Came out in 2002.
Bildung's Roman, maybe.
Oh, perhaps.
And so the narrator is Tim Curry. English actor.
The actor?
Singer. Yes, the actor
from
Rocky Horror Picture
Show, and Home Alone 2: Lost in New York, and Muppets Treasure Island,
Three Musketeers.
Wow!
Oh wow! Pennywise in the miniseries It.
Yeah,
is that the one that I'm always referencing that I read the Wikipedia page for?
Yes.
Wait, so it was a miniseries, not a movie?
It was two movies. It was a part 1 and part 2.
The miniseries from 1990.
Yeah. They call it a miniseries. It was a 2-parter.
Okay, so wow, there's a connection there. The famous movie that I read the Wikipedia page on to write that essay in Mr. Miller's class. That's tied in here. So that's pretty cool to have a big name narrating like that. And
it is cool.
It was recommended. Let me go back here. Recommended by let's see, Willie Good at Grant L. Pollard, the Old Kingdom trilogy. Recommended by at ETRSOP. That is entirely the right sort of podcast, a King Killer podcast. Recommended Sabriel as well. And I believe we had, let's see, Caitlin Lloyd again. And Caitlin L. recommends Sabriel. So that's 3 Sabriel recommendations. Wow. We've got Tim Curry. I've been wanting to read it for a while. Charles, will you join me in spending a credit on this $12 audiobook?
I will join you. I was just making sure that there wasn't any omnibus collections. Sometimes they'll do that.
Oh, smart.
Because this has been out for 25 years, and apparently, it's a best-selling series. So I was like, did they combine it? And I don't see where that would have happened. I'm going to check the author.
I like where your head's at, though.
Yeah. This is the part of me that's looking out for this stuff. Yeah, I don't see anywhere where it's combined. So I'm feeling good about jumping into book 1 here, Sabriel.
Charles, I have a confession. I don't know if this will affect anything.
Oh, boy.
But, okay, it's going to be good to get this off my chest.
Let it out. This is a safe space.
Part of my issue is I already got Sabriel. I got the audiobook for Sabriel. You do have a problem. It's just been sitting there in addition to my now 5 remaining credits. So I can't even spend a credit, but what we can do, Charles, is guide you through this and get you down to 5 with me. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So if I get this credit, then we match with credit numbers. So I'll make this commitment to you. We've learned something about your specific problems run a little different than mine.
Yes.
But I will spend this credit for Sabriel. Buying for 1 credit, confirming purchase, and success.
Okay. Good
It's
job.
in the library.
Congrats, Charles.
Thank you.
Much like a character in a lit RPG, you are leveling up.
I am leveling up. My inventory is building. I'm doing great.
Yes. All right. Well, we're both down to 5 now, Charles. Those were the two that I was like, okay, they're sticking out as something that's recommended by so many people, and that I think at least you wouldn't have. And I'm just looking through now and trying to see if any other themes are popping up here. I feel like I saw, maybe this was just, okay, that was just once. I saw The Wandering Inn. For some reason, I thought that came up multiple times. Do you have the Twitter up, Charles? Do you want to help me here?
I do not have the Twitter up, but I can.
I'll send you a link.
I
Link in the chat, Charles.
Oh, link is in the chat. Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, let me
go.
read. Let's see what sticks out here, and something is already. So, Charles, I think it's a great fan of the show at Ro Capri. Roger, I don't know how to say your name out loud.
Okay.
Even though we've interacted a bunch of times. So feel free to reach out, and I apologize for the potential mispronunciation. Roger Caprino commented with a bunch. Witness for the Dead by Catherine Addison and its sequels. I believe Catherine Addison is author of The Goblin Emperor, Charles, so I know that's one you were considering, so maybe...
Yes.
The Night Circus and Starless Sea by Aaron Morgenstern. That one I've heard a lot. Dresden Files, which we have complicated feelings on that we won't get into. And then...
And I think I have the first one already.
And then White Trash Warlock and sequels by David R. Sladen. And last but not least, Summer Sons by Lee Mandel. I want to comment on David R. Sladen because my partner is a big fan of David R. Sladen's work. And David R. Sladen, I believe, is local to the Rocky Mountain region. I'm trying to remember David R. Sladen's actual, like, I don't know if it's Wyoming or if it's like Denver. Okay, grew up in Guthrie, Oklahoma, but now lives in Denver, Colorado. And first book is White Trash Warlock. My partner loved these books, and I believe White Trash Warlock is based in Denver as well. So a lot to like. Oh, and my partner met him at like a signing at our local bookshop and said that he was delightful. So
that's nice.
Yeah, so a lot of
what's
reasons.
the name of the book that was recommended?
White Trash Warlock.
Interesting.
It's short.
White Trash Warlock. I'm looking it up. I think I've seen this cover in bookstores before.
It's on this bookshelf behind me.
Oh, see,
because my partner's right.
Again, my problem here. Okay, it's $8.40 on Audible.
Okay, that is kind of. I mean,
it's almost half the price. And you own the book already too, so it's one of those things where it's
physical.
Here's one that I saw from commenter Woody Woodrow, they gave a fantastic list of recs, but one of them triggered something in my brain. He mentions Evan Winter's Rage of Dragons, which I've listened to and loved, but Fires of Vengeance is one that I don't own, that I really enjoyed the audiobook of the first one. It's shortlisted for us to read and talk about on the show. So to me, I think that would be it. And it's one of those ones that's like, let me check the library thing. Let me just make sure it's not ready.
1746.
Ooh, so it's in the right price. Let me just check Fires of Vengeance in my library app. It could not find anything. That's promising. Let me just check Evan Winter. Make sure I typed everything in here correctly. Yep, it's got the first book, but not the other one. So this is a perfect credit for me. I don't know about you, Dylan, because I know you own the book. But for me, this is an easy grab.
Now the question is, do I do
Double
like
dip.
supplementing. Yeah, I actually am like, I understand anyone who's like, I would never want to buy a physical book and then also be spending a credit on it. But I do enjoy the double dip of back and forth
That
between
whisper sync
audio
feature
and
that they have is
yeah.
solid. So.
I mean, I do that. Usually I do that, but in this case, I have the physical copy of Fires of Vengeance. But you know what, Charles? I got so many credits lying around. I do like doing that double dip. The price is right.
I understand if you don't want to.
I'm doing it.
The price is right. I'm going to do it. And it's thanks to Woody Woodrow's rec of Rage of Dragons that helped me remember the Fires of Vengeance. And as you know, Rage of Dragons was like our top read of last year on the show, so we highly recommend it. I thought the audiobook narrator was fantastic. One of the characters' names he used to say was like, Udawak. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's kind of Udawak. Let's go. You know, so it's all that kind of stuff. Isiogo. All these fun pronunciations of things I really enjoyed. So I purchased it. That's my third purchase today. We are doing great. This is healing.
I'm joining
this is more
you,
than you've joining me. Fantastic.
Yes, I just bought it. 2
for Evan Winter. We love that. I'm excited to get into that too. This is exciting.
Me too.
This is fun.
This is exciting.
Spending more money than I normally would be excited about spending, but I already spent it, so this is just making the best of it, having fun.
It's for content.
Baron Harkonnen over here.
Yes, the Dune reference, or like the 1 degree of separation away from actually being a Dune reference. What is he? What does he say? Squeeze. He's like
income.
Yeah, but then he says like squeeze. Yeah, what does he say?
Something about like you need to squeeze them for squeeze the merchants and get the maximum price for spice. I don't remember the exact quote, but he's like, "You have one job."
Charles, can I? Woody Woodrow at Woodster 7279. Like, that's the same one you just referenced. Yeah, you just referenced. I know. Something that I'm seeing in their recommendation, which was very thorough, so thank you, Woody, is Kel Cade's King's Dark Tidings. Okay, and this book rings a bell because Fantasy Files podcast reached out to us specifically about this book. So, and like, they were
specifically King's Dark Tidings, because I see they got Kel Cade, the author, has a lot of books here, and it's not coming up right away. Yeah, is that maybe the series name?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Say it.
Is that the series name?
King's Dark Tidings, you're saying?
Yeah, is that the series or the book?
Okay. Yeah. Because anyway, I believe it was from the Fantasy Files podcast, their Twitter, but I think Spencer is running that. So Spencer went off on you have to read it. It's like King Killer Chronicles. And here's the kicker, Charles.
Okay.
Not only is it like the King Killer Chronicle, it is narrated by Nick Podell, who narrates the King Killer Chronicle.
That ain't nothing. That is big. I cannot find this book freaking searching on Audible. What is wrong with me?
Maybe that's the name of the series. Can we Google King's Dark Tidings and find the first book?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to switch to Google now. I was just on Audible trying to find it. They have
Free the Darkness.
Okay.
I'm not saying that as some sort of intervention. I'm saying that's the name of the book.
That's the book. Okay, yes, King's Dark Tiding Book 1. Okay, and hey, it's $26.94. The same.
Oh, okay. So Charles, so the audiobook was brought to our attention already by Spencer, and Spencer was like, you have to, this is perfect. This is right up your alley. We're getting the recommendation again from trusted source who, Woody Woodrow gets it. Woody Woodrow's throwing Evan Winters out there. I mean,
great audiobook narrator in Nick Podell
and Sanderson. is also in the mix that Woody's recommending. I think we got to trust the people, our support network here.
I am more than happy to trust the support network here. I've never heard of this. This is outside of anything I've heard. So sometimes I like to not read too deep into something. It's like, it's been recommended, it looks good, the price is right, the narrator's right. That's enough to jump right in. So I will join you, Dylan, in spending this credit here if you're ready to take that plunge.
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right. That's another audiobook in the works. Here's one that I'm not sure I want to spend, Dylan, and tell me, I want to gauge your excitement and interest on this. One that I had tried to download from the borrow from the library, and I'm still on the waiting list months later, and it's still going to be several months until it's available for me to download, is The Three-Body Problem, which is science fiction. But it is one of the most legendary science fiction books of the modern age. It recently had a big Netflix series made from it. I had pitched it on Friends Pitching Fantasy, and at that time, all the audiobooks I had pitched, I placed a hold on it in the library, and that is the only one that has still not been available yet. It was something crazy like, it's about 60 weeks away or something. I'm like, what the heck? So it was just like super popular. I'm still, how many weeks do I have to go on my hold here? Approximately 11 weeks. Keep in mind, this was when I read that Stephen King fairy tale. So that was around the exact same time. And I'm still 49th in line, and I started at 163rd. And there's 9 copies. So it's just taking forever. And it's one of those things where it's like, yes, the Netflix show obviously made people go out and put a hold on it. But it is also like super beloved. I don't know anything about the audiobook production, but it could be an option. The only thing I'm not like jumping all over it is because it's not something I'm like dying to read right now. It's not on our radar to read on the show at any point. No one recommended it, but I'm throwing it out there as a potential choice.
Charles, I'm in full favor of you spending these credits.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can wait 11 weeks. We're not going to read this in the next 11 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. I think you can do that. I think
so. Maybe we'll put this one on as something in the back pocket in case we really get up against the wall and spending these credits. But just something to put out there that it's super popular. It's one of those ones that's like worth spending a credit on. If I really wanted to read this right now, I would spend it. But you know what? The price is $14.17 right there on the cusp. And like you said,
with tax,
11 weeks.
I bet that creeps over 15. But
it would be worth it. It would be worth it, but I'm not going to go crazy. Narrated by Luke Daniels. That sounds familiar.
Okay. Let me just throw this out there because this came up a few times. Let's start with Laura from our pod. My pod with 3 Ys. Is her Twitter handle. She said Lord of the Rings, Andy Serkis version. Okay? And Laura was not alone. Obviously, friend of the show. Came to mind quick, but I saw other folks making this recommendation. I'll see if I can locate those to give them credit. Okay, I see Anna Claire Wrights, at Anna Claire Wrights, Lord of the Rings, read by Andy Serkis. So apologies if I'm missing you. I feel like it might have come up like one more time, but either way, Charles, you're the biggest Lord of the Rings fan I know, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out there and see where your head goes. That crossed
my mind because I remember when that came out and people loved it, and I've yet to hear it. I know The Hobbit was the one that was kind of catching my eye. I've read these books a million times, so that's the only thing that's keeping me from jumping all over it. But it's one of those things where it's like the audiobook experience with Andy Serkis doing the performances is what elevates it. I saw all those recommendations too. I know he did The Hobbit. Did he? I'm assuming he did the whole series. Let me see. I'm looking at the
I
Fellowship
guess
of the
because
Ring.
people kept saying Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he narrated it. Yep. So I'm seeing it
and that's
here.
a longer. I don't know if that has some sort of omnibus thing, but that's even if it's just Fellowship that you buy, that's a much longer book than The Hobbit, so you get a little more bang for your buck.
I don't see an omnibus thing. I do see the Silmarillion, which I've never picked up and attempted before. That might be what gets me over. The thing is there's probably no Gollum in that, so he's not going to do the voices, but it could get me to finally read that book that I've never done before. I just don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I'm down to 3 credits now. I got to start being a little selective here. If I was to pick one, I'd probably do The Hobbit and just enjoy the ride. But I don't know. Where are you at?
I'm not as huge a Lord of the Rings fan as you, Charles. I love the movies. I like the books for sure. Not quite as much as I like the movies, but so I could give or take in this situation. I don't know how quick I'm going back to like reread. Just like I love Andy Serkis, but is that enough to get me to be like, okay, I'm gonna just go get it for this.
Another one to put on the back burner, I think.
Yeah.
The other one I'd like to add as an honorable mention in the back burner, because I know you already have it, but I've been tempted to get it a couple times, and I keep seeing it, and I recommend it on Audible, is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
Oh yeah.
And we've already done an episode on it. We've already recommended it, so I feel like I would just be catching up at that point. But it is one where it's like, I love The Martian. You said the audiobook experience in particular is highly recommended. So I almost spent a credit on that, but I know we were doing this together and you already have it, so I put it on hold. But maybe that's one that I dive into. Spend one of my 3 credits
I
on.
highly recommend that. That's one that I don't like to give too many reasons why I recommend the audiobook, because that could include spoilers, but I'll just say there's a special element to the audiobook that makes it an experience that is different, and I would say seems better, though I haven't read the physical book. But
well, that's
definitely adds an
probably
extra
one
element.
I'm going to spend money on. But I'm willing to hold out just to see how the rest of this episode shakes out. And if I have any left over, that would be an easy one. Same with an Andy Serkis narration. That would be a good one. 3 Body Problems, another one. That would help me spend my 3 credits already. So I'm in pretty good shape here. I think now we just have to decide, are there any more that we're willing to commit to on the air right now?
Yeah. I'll also say Barrel Rider at Teams Nuts TV also threw out the Silmarillion in their recommendation for the Andy Serkis stuff. So got someone saying that the Silmarillion could be an interesting one to check out. And maybe the Andy Serkis aspect of it can make something that could be a bit dry a little more palatable, I'll say. So I would definitely keep that in mind if we do end up going the route of an Andy Serkis book. But anyway, I'm looking now and I'm seeing that The Will of the Many and James Islington is coming up multiple times.
I heard of that
see
one.
Where that. Yeah,
I've seen that cover
that's
everywhere.
one. Yeah, that's so Anna Claire Wrights, who also mentioned the Andy Serkis books and Black Tongue Thief, so they have amazing taste because we love the Black Tongue Thief audiobook. At Anna Claire Wrights, The Will of the Many actually works amazingly on audiobook too, they said.
Okay.
Julia Caro, who we mentioned earlier, says The Will of the Many. I believe our pal Woody, who gave those awesome recs, said James Islington as well. Presumably that includes The Will of the Many. And this book is just like wildly popular, Charles. I'll also say that my partner got me the physical copy of the book as a gift, so I probably will not personally be purchasing the audiobook out of respect to the gift, and I will try to like prioritize physical reading of that book, but at least putting that out there for you then, Charles.
And that's a good one. And I have a similar
it's long too.
That like the opposite situation where it's like I already own it, so I may not get the audiobook, but you may want to get it. Is, you mentioned Christopher Buehlman, The Daughter's War, book 2 of the Black Tongue series, which it's not narrated by Christopher Buehlman this time. I think the main character is a female, and so he brought in a female audiobook narrator, so slightly different. But we're big fans of The Black Tongue Thief. I bought Daughter's War physical to match my collection here. I have the Black Tongue Thief as well. So I probably won't be spending a credit on it, but it's something to put out there as well because it's a brand new release. It's something we'll very likely read on the show at some point. I know I am very tempted to put it in my next FPF as a pitch. So just throwing that out there as well.
I mean, I'd be going in without any sort of recommendation of anyone who's actually heard the narrator, which gives me pause a little bit.
You could preview it.
I could preview it. Charles, why don't you preview it on your thing that shares sound, and then we can listen together. And then if you can, I don't know if you can like insert that sound into the episode, but that would be cool.
Probably could. Let's see. Let's give it a listen here. Let's see if I can pull it up on Audiobook. All right, let's see.
I wanted to mention,
Audible
by
sample,
the way,
I have found it.
Nice. The David Slane book looked like it might be free on audiobook, by the way. I wanted to mention that.
Which one's the David
free
Slane
on
book?
Audible. White Trash Warlock that we talked about earlier. So just wanted to mention that for folks and maybe myself as well, because it just said play. It didn't say like spend credit.
Yeah, that's exactly the same situation with Live Ship Traders. Mine says buy for a credit. White Trash Warlock.
Weird.
Maybe because my account's
Mine
on
just
pause.
says play.
I paused my subscription,
There you
so
go.
that might
there
do
you
it.
go.
That might do it.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's give The
the
Daughter's
benefits of
War
being
by
unpaused.
Christopher Buehlman a little sample here, a little taste.
This is Audible.
Okay, let's there's some music. That's fun.
Wow.
A little pan flute
Setting the
action of
scene.
some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spooky. Ooh. This is
I would
4.5 minutes long. You think I
Yeah,
should give it a
can
little
we-
boost? Let's go halfway in.
But I would fail in this. The rest of the first lanza of His Majesty's Corvid Knights would not fail.
Let me. I know you like to listen at a little faster speed.
This is not a
can you go
happy
like
story,
1.5, 1.5.
and it
Here's
isn't
1.5.
true
There's
one.
a little taste of the 1.5.
I have no time for lies or for liars.
Okay.
Okay.
The
A
name
little
of the ship I
accent.
sailed on
Okay.
was the Rain Queen's Dagger, and it was a troop mule packed with goblin meat, which meant
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
That could be something.
Okay, Charles. How about this?
All
Why
right.
don't we make
I'm
a deal?
listening. All
If
right.
you get Project Hail Mary,
Oh.
I will get The Daughter's War.
All right. I thought you were going to hit me with the Will of the Many, but I will do
that's another option. That's another option.
If we're
Either of those.
Because when I think about show potential, Project Hail Mary has none because we've already talked about it, unless we decide to do a spoiler-filled thing on it.
Did we have a Project
You
Hail
did
Mary
a.
dedicated
You did
episode?
a. I think you did do a recommendation thing on it. I think you did. This would have been a while ago.
Jeez.
But I can look it up. Maybe it was just part of a recommendation series.
I feel like it might have been part of a recommendation series.
Oh, okay. In that case, that's the one I am excited to get into. Let's see. Project Hail Mary, Friends Talking Fantasy. Yeah, it's in the top fantasy books. What episode is this? Oh,
top fantasy books we read
during hiatus.
But that's not. That's not a true...
We never did a dedicated episode. Okay.
Because So, Charles, it's your choice, Will of the Many or Project Hail Mary, but I'm just asking, if I get Daughter's War, then you get...
I'll get Project Hail Mary.
Too. Okay.
Because you've been hyping it up for forever. I'm super curious what that special audiobook magic is. And so I'm willing to spend that credit.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. A soul for a soul. What's that from? That's from something.
I do know that's a thing, but
it's the Avengers. It's Marvel shit.
Oh, gotcha.
It's
what
Red
about
Skull.
a son for a son? That was
House of the Dragon. Yeah,
House of the Dragon.
Son for a son.
That's
there we
relevant.
go. That's what we'll say. Because a son for a son. Cool.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, at this
two
point,
each, right?
We're down to 2 each. We're down to fighting weight now.
Yeah.
I've still got over 2 months left of my pause. Here's what I think, Dylan. We haven't done FPF yet. I'm sure this will influence what we ultimately decide to pitch, but we may want to leave a credit or two. I'm happy to keep going. I'm happy to spend the whole dang thing. But I think because we don't know what we're reading next, the only thing that we're doing right now is finishing Live Ship Traders, and when that's done, we could go any direction. So maybe we hold on the last 2? I mean, we were passing 50 minutes on the episode. Do we do one more maybe, or do we...
Let's look what happens here, because
let's see if there's any
like
that jump
we'd be
out.
Remiss not to at least like throw some of these out there.
Okay.
One is just that friend of the show, Fantasy Book Nerd at Fantasy Book Nerd. When FBN chimes in, we listen.
You listen.
Will we listen to the audiobook? I don't know, but we'll listen to the recommendations. FBN said Weird Gods by Susanna Imaginario. I don't know pronunciation, so I'll just apologize. The Last War
Weird
Trilogy
Gods?
by Mike Shackle. That one has been on my radar.
Mike Shackle sounds very familiar.
Yeah, the Last War Trilogy is kind of...
Oh, yes. We Are the Dead has been recommended a bunch.
Yes, We Are the Dead has been recommended a lot. So I definitely think that's worth thinking about, and I'll just say Priest of Bones by Peter McLean is another one that's come up as a recommendation a lot. And,
Feast of Bones, eh?
Yeah. So those are out there. For me, I know Mike Shackle's work has been on my radar for a while. I don't know if we have to, just because, there's a different attitude when you're looking at 2 credits than when we're looking at 6 or 7.
Now it's
where you
getting
start
real.
Being like, okay, so no shade to Mike Shackle or FBN's recommendations if we don't go with it, but I just find myself clutching my credits a little bit tighter as we get that.
Yeah, look, we just gave ourselves hours and hours of listening to do, so much content, and I think that, this is a safety net to catch anything that comes up, which could even be, this series. So we don't have to necessarily say no. We're just saying, we're not going to spend the credit today so that we have it as an option to listen to. Because there's a bunch of things.
We're not saying no. We're saying maybe later.
We're saying, what
this
do we
isn't
say to the
goodbye.
god of Audible credits? Not today.
Yes. Okay. Well,
For another Westeros
yes.
call.
Very, in Westeros expanded universe of you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the other one that piques my interest here is Green Team Pod at Green Team Pod. So that's the Legendarium Green Team podcast, who we always appreciate when they chime in. They said the audiobook for World War Z is amazing with a full cast. And I've always heard this is like
the book
Pitt
is
so
movie?
good. Yeah, the book is so good. The Brad Pitt movie's kind of weird and like misses the point of the book. So
World War Z by Max Brooks. I
Full
see there's a
cast.
couple different versions.
Full cast, Charles. That's what you're looking for.
There's the complete edition. Is that what that is? Then there's the Lost Files. There's like a bunch of versions.
Can we? Oh, jeez.
What is
Okay,
the
well that's
complete
this.
edition?
I do see 6. Oh, there's like 9 or 10 people listed as narrators on this one.
It's an Audie Award winner. Huh.
Yes,
I didn't know Audible
Okay.
had their own awards.
and look at these names, Charles. On
Martin
this list.
Scorsese?
Mark Hamill,
What?
Luke himself,
Simon Pegg? Wow.
Luke Skywalker.
That is quite the cast. Whoa. Wow. That is
Bro,
very
I'm
impressive.
just like realizing how dumb a name Skywalker was. Like I'm just like stopping
Dang.
right now and being like, wait, what? Like I never like really like parsed that one.
You never
Like-
thought
like
about it. Sometimes you start
Skywalker?
spelling a word or something and you're like, am I spelling it correctly? Feels funny. You're having a moment like that. But my question to you is, which one do you get? Because, this is the abridged audiobook. Yikes, I don't want that.
No, don't mess with that.
I think you
Okay,
want
Charles,
the
let's-
complete edition.
Let's much like your audio much like your Audible subscription, let's pause here because
Yeah.
we can always just DM the Green Team podcast and be like, hey, which one were you
And the
referring
version
to?
I see
There's
is
like a million
$12
versions.
too, so
Oof.
I wonder if it's on.
Well,
I should check Libby
let's
also.
Let's not get started with that. But
I'm gonna search for World War Z on the library app. Okay. Oh, they have the audio. I can place a hold. It's only 6 hours. Dang, it's short.
that sounds like the abridged to me. But
What?
Charles-
maybe.
Charles, while this is riveting entertainment right now, you like looking through your
Well,
Libby
I'm placing
app.
a hold on
Let's-
it. What was the other one? The Will of the Many. I'm gonna search that one too.
Okay. Well, to fill this empty air here, I'll say I think we're starting to reach that point where we got a lot of great recommendations and like the ones that have stuck out really to me. Oh, Ed Gwynn chimed in.
Okay.
Friend of the show.
I'm listening.
Son of John Gwynn.
Mm-hmm.
And reviewer and Brothers Gwynn YouTuber,
Extraordinary. Yep,
man
yep.
of many areas of fame. Mentioned, of course, First Law. Also mentioned Red Rising, which I know you've read, but also mentioned the Greatcoats trilogy. Or
Yes,
Greatcoats, it might be more than
you
the trilogy.
were hyping it up, the Great Coats, and it made me
I
excited
did not
about
listen
it.
to audiobook. I did only physical reading with that one, so I will say
Still.
I can't speak to the audiobook. That being said, Ed Gwynn can. And so just want to put that in your headspace, Charles. I know you're down to 2 credits and things change. Things change once you're down to 2 credits, especially when you've got pause subscription.
Things do change. Things tend to get a little more real. The Will of the Many, the physical ebook is at the library, but not the audiobook. So that's something I have to consider as well. But that is because you talked that series up. It definitely piqued my interest because I haven't read any. That's Sebastian de Castell, right?
Yes, and they're really fun. They're we've talked about this in detail, but they're always called swashbuckling. There's good dialogue, like witty, fun banter.
Yeah, he's one of those
stuff.
authors that I've been really wanting to dive into and haven't yet for whatever reason. So that's a easy rec right there as well, especially with the Brothers Gwyn endorsement there. So, all right, well, I think we no longer have an Audible problem. That's what we came here to solve today. We're out of the hole. We have a comfortable buffer for credits with a lot of recs on deck that we could easily spend them on. And we've got 5 new books to get into, which is a big accomplishment, and quite frankly, some I wouldn't normally have considered, and I'm actually very excited to get into.
Yeah, me too. I think we did well here, Charles. If you told me at the beginning we'd both be down to a sensible 2 credits apiece by the end of this, I would say mission accomplished. And I'll say just right now, Charles, a weight has been lifted from my soul. I'm
can
feeling
breathe easy,
cleaner. Just like I'm feeling lighter. I feel like I could fly.
I know.
I won't test.
Freeing. It's and hopefully we help some others out there. If you found yourself in an Audible credit black hole, if we just touched one person, then we made all the difference. I mean, look at these heavy hitters: Project Hail Mary, The Fires of Vengeance, Dungeon Crawler Carl, Sabriel, Free the Darkness. These are a lot of these are Audible exclusives. 3 out of them, out of my 5 are Audible exclusives. I'm feeling very good about this. This is a good haul, as they say.
Me too. Yeah. I got Dungeon Crawler Curl. I also got Fires of Vengeance, Free the Darkness, and I got Daughter's War. So
nice.
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did well. Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to pat us on the back, Charles. I don't want to use words like brave to describe us putting ourselves out there like this. But yes. I do think for anyone else who has an Audible problem out there and wants to, work on themselves, grow, I hope this laid a foundation and modeled some of those behaviors for you. And maybe you too can be down to a reasonable 2 credits before you know it.
Well said, Dylan. I think it was very brave of us to come out here today. And, we've got people out there listening, and I think it's good to show that vulnerability. It's very big of us to do that. Very admirable. So good for us. And I honestly think, Dylan, the only thing left to do, 1 is to get listening of these audiobooks, and 2 is to play that sweet outro music.
Charles, that was so easy. You could have done something with listening to the outro music, much like one listens to an audiobook. You kind of botched the landing there.
There was a lot of things. I was like, I wanted to thank everyone again for giving their recs. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. I wanted to move on. Can you be proud of me today? I've made some big growth moments, and you're nitpicking my segue in the outro. I spent 5 Audible credits today. It's like more than I've spent in 2 years.
I'm very proud of you, Charles.
Thank you. A little bit of grace. I'm still raw.
All right, Charles. Well, grace us with that sweet outro music, please.
Now
that's how you do a segue.
We need to play out on. Here we go. Thank you, everyone, one and all, for listening to yet another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. If you like what you heard today, if you want to support this show, one of the best ways to do that is engaging with us over on the socials. That's at the FTF Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and at the FTF Podcast with number 1 at the end on Twitter. Who knows? We may even spend our hard-earned credits based off of what you like and comment over there. Now, Dylan, if they want to support the show even more than following us and engaging with us over on the socials, what can they do?
Toss 5 stars to our podcast, which you can do over on Spotify. And that's where most of you are listening, so it helps so much. Just go to About at the top of the Friends Talking Fantasy podcast feed. Click where the stars are. You know how many to give us over there. You can also rate and review on Apple Podcasts. That means you can say nice things about us. You can tell us how proud you are that we had a breakthrough in this episode, and you can throw us 5 stars alongside that review. But you don't have to do any of that, because just listening is more than enough. Thank you so much.
Well said, Dylan. Guys, just listening is so much more than enough. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, go forth and conquer, friends.